Welcome to Masterpiece Spanish class. Today we are going to sit around and talk about number and gender of nouns. It's a wonderful thing. Sit and relax, listen, take notes, and get ready to learn some Spanish. We're going to start this lesson off with identifying the gender of nouns. In Spanish, there are two types of nouns. There are masculine nouns and there are feminine nouns. The way you identify whether a noun is masculine or feminine is by that you look at the last letter of the word. 98% of the time, this will indicate whether it's going to be masculine or feminine. So, let's take a look. Typically, what we've seen is that most masculine words that end with an O are masculine. Most words that end with an A are considered feminine. However, there are more words that end with other letters other than O and A out there. For example, there's a nice little list down here at the bottom. So, first, we know it's masculine if it ends with an L, O, N, E, R, or an S. So it spells out loners. For feminine, it either ends with a D, it ends with this ending, which is ion, a Z, or an A. It spells dionza. Now, let's take a look. Let's identify whether it's masculine or feminine. We're going to circle the masculine and under box the feminine. Okay? So papel, because it ends with an L, we now know it's masculine. Ciudad ends with a D. So, whoops, messed that up. We're going to box it in. Okay, nación. Now, don't let it fool you because it does end with an N. However, because of I-O-N and the accent over the O, we know that it's going to be feminine. So we're going to box it. Gato ends with an O, so therefore, it is masculine. Nariz ends with a Z, and because we know that's feminine, we're going to box it in, so it's a feminine word. Callejón does end with an N, but it doesn't end with I-O-N, so we know it is masculine. Estante ends with an E, so it's masculine. Guitarra ends with an A, so it's feminine. Color is masculine because it ends with an R. So it's pretty straightforward. There are a few exceptions that we'll discuss in just a few minutes. And here they are, okay? Not all nouns follow this rule. Nouns that represent people or animals will agree with the gender of the animal or person. For example, the best example here is mujer madre. According to the rules that we've just learned, anything ending with an R or an E should be masculine. But we also know that a mujer, the meaning of it, is woman. We hope that our women are feminine. We don't want them to be masculine. So we know that mujer is going to be feminine. Madre means mother. So, therefore, also, we hope that your mother is also feminine and not masculine. Though sometimes we wonder, right? But let's not. There's other examples that you'll see, like profesor and profesora, you can see because that it will match the person, whether they're masculine or feminine. Profesor is for a male teacher or professor. Profesora refers to the woman because we have the A on the end of it. Same thing with maestro, masculine, maestra, all right? These are the only true examples where it's going to be, though it ends with an R or an E or something that shows that it's going to be masculine, that it's actually feminine, okay? So now that we know how to identify those nouns and how to identify whether they're masculine or feminine, we're going to look at nouns and how to make them plural. Typically what you find is if the word ends with a vowel, A, E, I, O, or U, or in Spanish it's A, E, I, O, U, add an S. If the word ends with a consonant, okay, anything other than a vowel, we're going to add ES on the end of it. So it's very similar to English in some respects. So here we have papel. And because it ends with an L, we know we're going to add an ES. Corazón, there's the consonant, so we add another ES. Gato, because it's a vowel, we're going to add just an S. All right? Color, ends with a vowel, or a consonant, sorry, it's going to end with a es. Colores. Popular will add an es, so then it becomes populares. Guitarra becomes guitarras. Now, look at this note down here on the bottom. It says words that end with a Z will have a spell change. And what it is the Z will change to a C when made plural. A good example of this is lapis. Lapis, because it ends with a Z, when we change it, typically because it's a consonant, we're going to add an ES on it. But when we do, that Z is going to have to change to a C and becomes lapises. Okay? Okay, now let's look at some of the articles of nouns. What is an article? Right here, this is an article. The is an article. Is an article. And some is an article. Okay? And so what we find is we have this little chart here. We have two different kinds of articles. We have definite and then we have indefinite. When we think of definite, immediately what you think of is very specific. When you think of indefinite, it's not specific. Okay? And so what we find is, like, to give you an example of how this works, it's very similar to say, hey, give me the cell phone. The cell phone. There's a specific one in mind, as opposed to give me a cell phone. If I said give me a cell phone, I'm talking about anything. I don't care which one you give me, just give me a cell phone. Whereas I have a specific one in mind, and that's the one you're supposed to give me. Okay, so let's look at the articles. Definite articles for Spanish are divided up into a couple of categories. You have the masculine forms. Oh, wait, I want to change that color. I'm going to make it blue. So we have masculine, and then we also have its counterpart, which is feminine. And the same thing over here for indefinite articles. Masculine, okay? Then up at the top, what we will find is that we're going to have two different categories. We have the singular, and then we have the plural side. And then over here, singular and plural. So let's take a peek. Masculine for definite articles, to say the, is el, and the plural form is los. Un for indefinite article, and unos. Okay, if you notice here, we drop the O. Remember that. Now, let's look at the feminine articles. For definite article, we have la and las, the plural form. Singular feminine is una and unas. Okay? Yay! Now you know the articles concept. Here we have articles of nouns. Articles have to agree with with a noun in both number and gender. So I want you to take a moment and just do this on your own and see if you can provide for me the appropriate article for each of these. Remember, the article has to agree both in number and gender. Go. Okay, let's take a look at this, all right? The papel, because we know this is a definite article, this is singular and it's masculine, we're going to use el. Now let's look at some corazones. Some kind of corazones, we know if we take off the es, if we take it off, it ends with an n. So we know that it's masculine. So then, because we're using the indefinite article, and this is plural, we're going to use unos. Unos corazones, which is some hearts. Pluma is a pen, ends with an A, so it's feminine. We're going to use the indefinite article, so it would be una. Una pluma. We have the escritorios. We know this is the definite article. If we were to take off the S, because we recognize that it is pluralized, we know that it's going to be masculine, so we're going to use los. Then we have the ciudad. Remember that the D shows that it's going to be a feminine noun. And the is an indefinite article, so we're going to put la ciudad. We have some narices. So if we were to take this off, now this one can be kind of tricky, so you have to be careful. Because that C is actually what originally was a Z, right? Because when we add this on, that's an ES, that's made plural. So we convert it back to a Z, and we know that Z's are feminine. Okay? So then we have some narices. So we're going to use the Indefinite article, so it'd be unas. Narices, some noses. Okay, good job. I hope you did well. All right, so let's look at the last. Okay, adjectives and nouns. Okay, something very important. Adjectives function just like the definite and indefinite articles in that they have to agree both in number and gender. Okay, generally speaking, adjectives, when we are using them, are placed after the noun. Okay, so here's an example. We have the red car. Here's the adjective red. Here's the noun car. All right, the is the definite article. Now, if you notice here, down here, on the Spanish portion, el coche rojo, coche is the actual noun. There it is. And then el is matching both in number and gender. It's singular and it's masculine. Red can be found right here. It comes after the noun. And it's also going to match in number and gender. Rojo. Now, what happens when we change it? The same adjective, if we were to say the red roses, we find that the same thing happens. It comes after the noun. Rosas, roses. Okay? Now, the article, we see that it's changed to las because it's plural and feminine, las rosas. And if we were to add red roses to modify it a little bit, to describe it some, we would see that it changes to rojas. Now, do understand that any of your adjectives that end with an O can change to an A. And they also match in gender also, or number, sorry. They're going to match in number. However, like it says here in the little note, that is incredibly important, is that adjectives that do not end with an O do not change it to match gender. Up here at the top where I was just at, I'm going to show you that, and a good example is azul, which means blue. If I were to say the blue or the blue roses, okay, we would say las rosas, but we would say azules. It would match in number, but if you notice, there's no A on there to show that it's feminine, because you can't do it. So anything ending with another consonant, with any other letter other than O, only matches in number. Now, let's take a look at some sentences with adjectives when we look at them. Because what you're going to find is if you change the number of the noun, you're going to see how it reacts with everything else. It's a chain reaction. So everything that depends on that noun is going to match both a number and gender. Okay, for example, the first sentence that we have right up here says, Los hombres feos son muy inteligentes. The noun here, the principal noun, is hombres. We see the article here matches in number. Feos matches in number and gender. We have this verb right here that is going with hombres. Son. Muy doesn't do anything. Inteligentes is another adjective, which means intelligent. So it's matching in number, or actually just in gender. Or a number, sorry. Because it's just got an S. Okay? So if we were to change this, if I were to tell you, okay, now I'm going to change it to hombre, but we're going to use the same sentence. So what would happen is los would change to el because it's singular. Feos would just stay as feo. It'd still match in gender, but it's no longer going to be plural because it's el hombre, it's one man. And then son will actually change to es. And then muy, and then we have inteligente. See if I can correct that. Okay, inteligente. We drop the plural because the noun is now singular. La cama incómoda está limpia. So if I were to make cama into camas, we do the same thing. We go the same process. We see that the article is going to have to change and become plural. So we'd say las. We see that incómoda is the adjective meaning uncomfortable, and it's describing the bed or the beds. So we're going to put an S on the end and make it plural. So it'd be incómodas. Está is the verb, and it's being reacted upon by las camas. So we're going to make it plural, and we say están. And then we have limpia. And limpia is also going to change. It's going to change to an S. So it's limpias. Okay? And there it is, okay? And that's how you do it. Be prepared for your quiz. So, thank you for watching another piece of Spanish theater. Remember, keep calm and learn Spanish, because Spanish is the third most widely spoken language on the planet. You never know, you might end up like this girl, a tiny bit strange, with a map on your face. Good day.
Made with Doodlecast Pro.